So joining me today, we have Giuliana Auinger, the Vice President, Strategy and Sustainability at Schneider Electric, Frank Siebdrat, the COO of Tado, a leader in smart technology and home climate control, Francis, who obviously you all know after that amazing presentation, and we're joined also by Nigel Banks, the Technical Director at Octopus Energy. Wow, hard act to follow, Francis, but we're going to do our best because I think so much of what you said really has applications, not just in terms of constructing new homes, but also how we think about sort of mitigating and decarbonising our homes that already exist. So, Giuliana, I hope you don't mind if I start with you. So, obviously, the energy crisis across Europe has really caused a lot of people to struggle over the past few years. We've had this urgency of home decarbonisation, but also a cost of living crisis. So that makes it very hard for people. How do you think about that? How can we address that in the best way?
Well, definitely a hard act to follow, and thank you for such an inspiring presentation. So good thing Francis is on our panel, because we know that the panel is going to be great as well. But back to your question, Greg, I think the word balance is a bit misleading because it suggests that it's two different things, right? Tackling decarbonization is one thing, tackling the energy crisis is a different thing. For those not too familiar with the sustainability space, I can tell you it's the same thing. Energy consumption is the biggest contributor to carbon emission in the world. And buildings itself, at the operating phase, uses 20% of that. 70% of our carbon emission globally is attributable to household consumption, whether it's embodied or operational space. So if we are able to reduce our energy consumption, we actually benefit both things. You spend less money on your energy and you can decarbonize the world. So it's not about balance, it's about accelerating on both ends. And in Schneider Electric, we believe that there are two main drivers for this. One is electrification, and second is digitization, and we call it home energy management. But here comes the challenging part of that, which is why the balance also becomes important. But I think it's balancing two things. One is balancing a global problem, which is the need to decarbonize, and all of us are impacted, and all of us have to do something about it. But then the other problem is a localization problem, right? The energy crisis, of course, very much felt in Europe. I actually live in North America now. I can tell you it's not felt there because our energy price is, if not half or 3 times less than what Europeans are experiencing right now. So when you think about corporates like Schneider Electric, the challenge we have is that we know there is a global problem to solve. We know we need to be part of the solution. But the motivations and the solutions look very, very different, country by country, depending on where you are. I'll give you an example. So, and it's a very recent example. It's a personal example that I'm going to share. So I work in strategy. So my job is to make sure that we bring our entire business towards the direction of the future that makes sense. But one thing I realized, and as you can tell from my accent, I lived in Europe for a very long time. But I've also lived in North America for a very long time. But when I listen to my European and my US colleagues speak to each other, it's like they're talking a different language. They cannot understand each other. In the US, the biggest challenge they have is blackouts, right? They have many blackout dates. The grids are often not stable in many of the states. And you've seen recently in the news, a hurricane can come and really bring things down. So when you think about a homeowner or a resident in the US, what they care about is resiliency. They want batteries, they want solar panels, so that when the grid is down, they can still, power the internet, power the fridges, and so on and so forth. And in the US, one of the challenges they have is when you start wanting to have electric heat pumps, solar panels, EVs, your main service panel is not built to withstand that kind of load. So they need to work with their utility and say, hey, can you give me more power? Can you increase my ampage from 200 to 400, for example? That is not just costly because you need to change the entire infrastructure of your home, but it's also it takes a long time. The utility will tell you, yes, call us back in 18 months. So we are working on something what we call service upgrade avoidance, right? So that the customer can quickly electrify their home and create resiliency for their home at the same time without having to go through this huge project. In Europe, we have the different thing, and you're all more familiar. It's about how do I manage my load, my consumption, so I use less and save more money. If you think about it, one is called service upgrade avoidance. The other one is called, I don't know, energy efficiency. You would know more probably from Octopus. The outcome is different, but the technology really is similar, right? You need some kind of disaggregation, load balancing that needs to happen. But they're working on completely different angles, because to them, it's two different things. Yeah. But the end result is the same. So how do we bridge that communication gap? Because without a global, scalable solution, even corporates like ours are going to struggle to get to the cost and the scale that we need to really have an impact and to bring down that 20% of emission that we need to bring down.
Thank you. Frank, Giuliana mentioned household energy consumption being sort of like a really important kind of pillar. Obviously, you're a technologist who is working on this this challenge. I'd love to get your perspective on what do you think the most cost-effective solutions are for reducing household energy consumption and emissions?
I mean, we have learned today that to master the energy transition, we need to have a collective agreement. We want to become carbon neutral in the European Union by the year 2050. In order to do so, we need to think and act collectively. In order to be collective, we need to make technology affordable. And one of the most affordable and effective tools to decarbonize homes is using smart technology. And my company is working on the demand side of electricity. So we are working on smart home climate management solutions. And remember what Giuliana just said, 36% of the CO2 emission in Europe is coming from buildings. 70% out of that is coming from residential homes. So we are, and we just concluded, here you see our products, we just concluded the Amazon Prime Days. We sold quite a lot of products again, and these are do-it-yourself products. So we are enabling the energy transition by selling affordable products, do-it-yourself in the homes, in order to reduce energy consumption. And here you see examples. We are connecting our devices to boilers, gas boilers, oil boilers, but also in the future now the heat pumps, which are very essential for the energy transition. So far, we have approximately 1 million homes connected in Europe, and together with these 1 million homes, in a cumulative perspective, we have saved already 2 million tons of CO2, just as one little company having 200 employees based in Munich. So it's a contribution, and we have to have more of these collective contributions.
1 billion homes is a huge number. And Francis, I'd love to come to you now. Okay, we're talking about 1 billion homes there. I think one of the things I was really struck with your presentation was the way that you really worked with the community and you worked with local people in order to sort of like to ensure that you delivered on what you were setting out to do. I'm wondering, just from your perspective, what kind of role can kind of community-based initiatives play in accelerating the decarbonisation, but particularly maybe in Western countries, in low-income areas?
Yeah. I think community has a voice, and then really thank the two of you for these ideas, this fight to reduce energy consumption. And if it comes to building, community has a key role to play. I think that just community have the capacity to force the lawmaker to make sure we all align to one ideal. If we don't take them under account, we will not achieve it, because you're talking about everyone doing whatever they want. But it's just the consumer, the community, that will be capable of putting the pressure that needed to make things move forward. Without this, we will not. Okay. We will not, because this is the only way. We have to work together. There is no other ways than that. And community can be a key player in that, making pressure to get law move forward, to allow us to go to the same direction in saving energy and our planet.
So Nigel, I'd love for you to maybe build on what Francis was saying there. Obviously, this community model is very important. I think that clearly that we need human power, right? Human skills in order to retrofit buildings, in order to ensure that both residential and commercial properties are fit for purpose in this energy transition. Do you think we have that in Europe at the moment? Does Europe need a really sort of like wide upskilling program in order to hit the goals that we're setting ourselves?
I think one of the really exciting things we've heard from Bertrand this morning and from Francis is how we can inspire people. Inspire people with the technology that's here today, that we can fly around the world in a solar power plane, and we can build homes today where you don't have to pay for your energy bill. You don't have to worry about turning up your heating. You haven't got to worry about the bill that's coming at the end of the month and the health benefits that have to live in a cleaner home, cleaner air. And that's available today. So we're building homes with 0 energy bills, guaranteed for 10 years. And the technology to do that is a marginal cost, often less than 1 or 2% of the extra cost of a traditionally built home. And I think we are, that point Bertrand made this morning, we are prisoners of the past. We are still building in the UK 90% of homes with gas boilers. When the technology is here, it is available.
What's getting in the way of us ensuring that all new homes are built with heat pumps, for instance, rather than gas boilers?
I think it comes back to the point around clean, efficient, profitable solutions that Bertrand talked about this morning. Businesses need to understand that they can be profitable and clean and efficient at the same time.
Yeah.
And we need solutions that inspire people to want to buy new homes. And we're doing that with the zero bills proposition. So we are guaranteeing no energy bills. Customers are buying 4 times as many zero bills homes as they are zero carbon homes. Because zero bills talks to your wallet.
Yeah.
And many people in the room might be interested in zero carbon, but zero bills talks to your wallet, and that talks to most people more. So how do we inspire people? And that's one of the things that we're trying to do at Octopus Energy is create those zero bill homes. But also we have an abundant energy system at times. So how do we get that free, abundant energy into people's homes? We give it away for free. So we have free electricity sessions in the UK. When we have excess wind or excess solar, people can use that power for free. And they can run their washing machine, run their cooking, and use that free excess energy rather than paying the power generators to turn down. So that's really engaging consumers, and that really transforms people into being prosumers and really engaging in the future and being excited and passionate about it. And that's where we've got to get to.
Giuliana, as Nigel says, we have the solutions. They're in our hands. From your perspective, what do you think the main barriers are now in terms of this widespread adoption of home energy storage solutions, and how can we overcome those? Sorry, big question.
I was going to say, I would have $1 trillion in my pocket probably if I know all the answers to that.
I mean, is it a combination of policy and mindset? And Francis, jump in.
Yeah, I think everyone should jump in. Let me tell you what I see, right? So I think there's 2 things. And I sound like a professor today, but I think on one hand, there are many solutions out there, right? We've got amazing solutions like Tado. We have amazing innovators around the world that are creating something new. But if you look at the way that electrical distribution works, right? We celebrated 100 years of the miniature circuit breaker this year, and close to Schneider Electric's heart. There are still many things that haven't evolved, right? In the way we think about energy, electricity, and how things work. So part of what we're really trying to do is to look at emerging technologies and solutions and say, okay, how can we even disrupt what we know today as the status quo? Would that help accelerate the adoption of some of the digital smart technologies that are already out there? So I think there is a bit of kind of mindset change that still needs to happen. It's not a lack of technology. I think Mr. Picard said it very nicely. It's an ocean of fresh water. But nobody really knows how to extract value out of that yet. The second part of the challenge, I think, I'll give you an example. So until recently, I was living in Hong Kong. I live in a village house, an old village house. I don't own it. I rented it. There are 8 air conditioning units in that village house. My electricity bill in Hong Kong, even Hong Kong electricity bills are not that high, was enormous because I had 2 under 2-year-olds, and the aircon is always on at a 30, 40 degrees Celsius climate. And I was wondering, how can I do something about it? And we didn't have Tado solutions in Hong Kong, unfortunately. But there is no incentive for me to do anything different. Because for me to change 8 air conditioning units, I need to completely, I mean, you can imagine, right? 3-story village house, the amount of investment I need to put in just to get the bamboo up to remove them, the units, and put new units in there. I don't own the house. It's my landlord's responsibility. But why would my landlord care? Why would he invest 100, 200,000 Hong Kong dollars to do this when he's not the one paying the electricity bill? I am. So I think there is a kind of principal agent problem as well. I think government obviously has a huge role to play, but I think some of these market failures need to be addressed. And when it comes to homes, it's even harder, because what I believe is a home, which is where I live in today, it's very different probably to your home in the UK and to your home and so on and so forth. So one size doesn't fit all. So it's a global problem that I think we're all struggling to find a unified solution that will work and scale. That's my opinion.
Francis, I'll just come to you 1 second, Frank. I'll come to you. You were nodding along like this is a global challenge. Like, how do you think we can best disrupt the status quo that Giuliana was describing?
I mean, thank you for the question again. To me, this is the key problem. We all think we're going to keep what we have, the status quo, and we will just do a little adjustment and to change it. But we have to make sure that our world is like being in a little boat. This boat is in the violent ocean and moving. And we have a crisis inside. If the crisis is a little bit in one corner of the boat, don't think that it will not affect the other corner of the boat. That's how we see our world. We think, okay, it is their problem. We have to consider it as a global problem and to push citizens to understand that we cannot keep doing like we used to do, and we have to come together and solve the problem. I have tried to show you in my little, global warming is pushing many people in the global south to leave their places, looking for better life. And if you live in Europe, you see the conflict that is coming. So those people will force to come here, increasing an existing situation, which is leading to conflict. So just talk about migration problem that we know are the source of the rise of extremism in Europe.
Yes.
So we have to make sure that everyone knew we are in one boat, we have to solve everything together. And as an architect, I will say, you guys are bringing smart ideas to really innovate the way we live and improve our life conditions, providing us comfort. Guys, come, be sure, if you don't provide comfort, people will not follow the solution. Never, they will not accept. It is in the DNA of human being. And that's why our solution has to be appealing. That's what I'm trying with my buildings. And the same way we have to push them to believe in the future and not to think we're going to stuck in our little, like your four-story house and then keep it like it is. No, we all need to move together and make sure we found a solution. It will not be easy, but better we start now than to wait to the collapse.
Thank you, Francis. Frank, you wanted to jump in. How are we going to disrupt this status quo, like from your perspective?
Exactly. I mean, there are good news. I mean, if you listen to the panel discussions today, we see we have one important thing already in our pockets, and that's technology. I mean, Schneider Electric, a very powerful company, having so great technologies. We learned about Oceanbird today. We learned about Volocopter today. We learned about the technologies from Octopus Energy. So there are technologies out. We have done a recent survey in Tado. What is the main reason why you are purchasing our equipment? Multiple choice was possible. The main reason was, I want to save money. The second reason is, I want to make the planet a better place. If we cannot fulfill the first one, the second one becomes less relevant. So they are coming together. And now if you have, and that is my key point, if we want to increase adoption, we need to teach and convince consumers, customers, to adopt our technologies. And marketing messages like zero bill homes, they are creating awareness. They are creating adoption rates. We have other companies also based here in Germany who are having very similar claims right now. And this is something that I'm observing recently. So I'm very confident that with these kind of messages, we get more focus, more attention by customers, and we will get a huge customer demand asking for these technologies. They want to understand it, they want to implement it, and then we will see also a transition that is accelerating in my eyes.
Can I
Please.
say, I cannot agree more. I think, when you look at big industries like data centers, they've managed to, get to net zero or even fully renewable mega data centers because, financing is pushing them where their customers are pushing them to do it. I think for homes, we as individuals and consumers are not pushing hard enough. When was the last time you said to your electrician, I want this? I want a switch or a socket that is made out of renewable plastic. We don't. We just assume decisions will be made for us in our home. I think we all need to speak up more. And I should have fought harder with my landlord to change those air conditioning units.
I should have fought harder with my plumber.
Let's go for Tado.
No, I was talking to him about putting a new boiler in. He was like, oh, we're going to do a gas boiler. I know, he's from Ghana. I know that he's building a completely renewable house in Ghana, but it's just easier for him to do the same old thing in the UK because that's just the way the things are set up. So Nigel, I'd love to get your comments at this point. And I think that's a great observation, Giuliana. We need to push harder on all kinds of areas. Nigel, just from your perspective, I think the one thing that Octopus is really good at is just like join the dots between consumer demand and kind of doing the right thing, so making the economics of it work. I'd love to, from your perspective, the new initiative you described, like, what are you missing in terms of like policy? What do you need from government in terms of incentives? If you were writing policy right now and informing Peter Kyle or Keir Starmer on how they're approaching the situation, what would you be telling them?
So I think one of the things that we've done is bring down the cost of doing this work, which has made it affordable for all homes. And that's one of the things that's incredible now. A 440-watt solar panel is less than £50. Mm-hmm. It's cheaper than roof slates to put on a roof. It's crazy. And we're doing the same with heat pumps. We've got our own heat pump over there, making the cost of installing it. So you've got to make the cost low, which is happening at a scale. We're also going to make it a really simple proposition for the consumer. And then we've got to get the regulatory barriers out of the way. And there are some regulatory barriers that are there. So you talked about the difference between in housing. You have a lot of people in landlord-owned homes, whether it be council or private landlords. In the UK, we have a limit on rents, which means even though the tenant could save £30 a week on their energy bills by spending £5 a week to invest in a battery, we're not able to do that. So that's one of the things that we can unlock. In the private sector, you can increase the rent by that £5 a week, and the tenant saves £30 a week. Yeah. So we need those mechanisms to unlock the financial viability, because the extra over cost has come down massively. Zero bills homes was technically possible 5 years ago, but financially wasn't possible 5 years ago, because it would have cost £50,000. Now it costs £8,000 on a new home. So the financial viability is there. And the other thing is you need to have energy markets which allow us to aggregate batteries, heat pumps, electric vehicles from individual homes. So in the UK, we have the Europe's largest virtual power plant, 1 gigawatt's worth of cars and heat pumps and batteries that we can smart control every night. And we turned that on in the last 2 years, and there was no extra capital cost involved in that. They're cars, they're heat pumps that people are installing. You think the cost of building a new nuclear power station, it takes 20 years and costs billions. That was there and it's available for free. And as we adopt more electric vehicles, we've got this enormous virtual power plant that's there, that's controllable. We can do that in the UK. In other countries, there are regulatory barriers stopping us aggregating those batteries and providing those services to the grid. Because we've got renewable energy, abundant renewable energy, in most European countries and in other countries in the world at times. We need to make use of those and shift the loads to best suit those times. And that requires us to have that.
Giuliana and Frank, I'd love to get your perspective as well on this regulatory issue or the incentives issue. Like, what really would shift the dial in your perspective? First of all, you, Giuliana.
I'm kudos for taking such a tough question. You're not easy. Greg. No. I think there is a balance to be had, right? I think it's easy for us to say we need the governments to make everything flexible and relax everything. But if you think about what we also need to deal with, in the past, you have a very simple powertrain, right? Everyone takes the power energy from the grid, plugs into your home, or your gas plugs into your home, you get it to work. And there's 100 years of tried and tested way to make sure your house doesn't burn down, people don't get electrocuted, your appliances don't catch fire. Now if you imagine a home that has an EV, a battery, a solar, simple as that, you suddenly have 300 plus combinations of how the power gets moved around. Then you add other sources, and it becomes a really complex engineering feat, right? And there are actually faults and scenarios where maybe we don't know what we don't know yet, and it hasn't been fully tested out. But it could become a big problem when when things go wrong. So I think it's important for the private sector and the public sector to work much closer together, to be pragmatic that we need government support from an incentive, regulatory perspective, but we also need to work harder to make sure we think holistically through all the potential scenarios and make sure we're going on through the energy transition in a smart, digital, but also safe and protected way.
Okay, Frank, over to you. What would Tado like to see?
So I'm not a big friend of governmental subventions which are on product level. Yeah? So I rather have governmental support for providing infrastructure and an environmental framework, because the solutions that are provided by Giuliana and by Octopus and by you as well, they are already a win-win-win. So they are a win for the environment because Octopus is relying on renewable energies. They are a win for the customers because the customers do benefit. There is a return on investment in 10 years. And there is a win also for Octopus, so congratulations. And therefore, we don't need additional subventions on the product itself, is my opinion. We rather need investments into at least two different streams. One stream is infrastructure. In Germany, we have a smart meter penetration of 3%. And the smart meter penetration is really one, you agree, I guess, is one of the key factors that is hampering the transition to dynamic tariffs. It's an issue. So here I would expect governmental support in order to help us out. And the second one, for instance, is education of workforce. We need also in the future for these more complicated, sophisticated electrical ecosystems, we need installers, installing companies who are able and enable us to get this done, to get it realized. And here I expect government support as well, helping these small companies to help us, companies, bigger companies, to implement our technical solutions.
Francis, a final word to you, if you don't mind. We've seen the incredible work you've done in Burkina Faso with the school. Like, what lessons from that do you really think we can take in terms of the thing that we really need to focus on in order to accelerate this transition?
No, I mean, there's a lot we can do. Like, so if you're talking about regulation and whatever, so, you know, the material I'm using are almost facing some problems. If you want to build a house of mud in Germany, you will be facing difficulties. So for a further develop in terms of economical wealth, as Germany, I may understand. But for places like Burkina, we should ease things because those countries are at the very beginning of their economical development.
Yeah.
And then in terms of population growth, I mean, for you guys, this is a huge market for you guys. And you should start to see it as a huge market for all of us. And what my concern is to push institutions to promote more that kind of construction. If you take an available material and you add a little bit of cement, I'm not against cement industry, you know. We will reach a big group of population where we could create comfortable houses for them and adding a little bit of cement, but increasing the capacity to build for the mass of population to come. And we should push that. It is clear that is a need. If Africa starts to build and consume the way the Western world has been done, then I will say good night.
Yeah.
Thank you, all of you, for a great panel. I think that the kind of takeaway for me is that we all need to be pushing a little bit harder than maybe we are. So thank you all, and thank you, Francis, for your keynote. Really fascinating. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Danke.